Welcome to the Pause Awards show, where we invite past winners and future judges to talk about their journeys, inspirations, and lessons learned in their professional careers and beyond. My name is George Hedden, and I'm a founder of Pause Fest and Pause Awards. Pause Awards are celebrating business achievements of impactful businesses that ultimately go to build better ecosystems. And today, I'm speaking with our awards judge. I'm talking to James Duru, creative director at Design Studio. Hi, James. How are you?
Hey, George. I'm great. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Thanks for joining us this year to judge Pause Awards 2021.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's pleasure. It's pleasure. There's a lot that I would like to talk to you about. I'm not sure if we have the time today, but first question I wanted to ask you is, because I did a bit of research, and it seems that you like to give back to the creative industry a lot in various different ways by, joining the AGDA or, mentoring students and even employing sort of juniors and sort of coaching them. What drives you to do so?
I think it's interesting you talked about a couple of different kind of pieces there. But I think there's something which kind of sits at the middle of it, which has nothing to do with what I do, but more to do with who I am. And it's my dad. My dad was a teacher, and for all of his career, he worked in special needs secondary education. And I kind of saw him give all of himself to helping others. And I think that really left an imprint on me. And so, personally, I find it really rewarding and enriching to involve myself in education, in mentorship, in tutoring young creatives wherever and whenever I can. And so there's that kind of personal side of it, and then there's the professional side of it. And it sounds really selfish, but it gets me access to some really awesome, inspiring, bright minds who not only kind of test me and really push me to explain my thinking in very easily understood ways, but challenge me to think differently and open me up to new experiences, but also means that I can, hopefully tap those people up and bring them into the studio and bring them on the journey that we're on as well, and kind of steal that talent before anyone else gets it.
Yeah, and hopefully keep you fresh, just to kind of understand what's going on out there, because it's almost impossible these days to keep ahead of what's going on because it's bombarding us from every possible side. But if you're talking to the new talent that's coming up, you can kind of understand from their point of view, their minds, where they're at.
100%. And, I think about how when I graduated, what the reason that I wanted to design was, and to be in the creative industries, was to connect a skill that I had, which was creativity and design, with things I love, which are, culture and arts. And at that point, it was a lot of music as well. I was really interested in kind of creativity around that. And I think that has shifted, I feel, quite dramatically, that I've experienced with my exposure to a lot of the graduates that I spend time with, which is, creativity and design thinking as a way to solve really big, challenging, prickly problems, whether it's climate change or social issues or gender issues or race issues. They are really active, engaged, and kind of electrified by those pieces. And I think to have people who sit at that cross section of creative capability and empathetic, socially interested mindsets within your team is awesome. And for me to have that exposure and to kind of shake off all of the stress and the challenge of a piece of work and just go and spend a bit of time with someone who's thinking about that stuff is really powerful.
Yeah, diversity in people and their skills. Yeah, definitely. Well, we've got a few awards categories for that too, especially some of those that you mentioned. You spend quite a lot of time in industry. You spend 4 years in Design Studio in London. before moving to Australia and starting the design studio here. I really love this explanation. We create brands that world loves, brands with purpose, brands that impact the lives of millions, and brands that last. That's what Design Studio does. So you started it 3 years ago, and what was that journey for you? Since like you being the first person to how many people now you have?
Yeah, I mean it's been an absolute ride. I would say, I left the London studio and the business in the UK when there was 35 people in that studio, and I kind of took some time out of the business. I did some other things, worked in a couple of other agencies, and then Ben and Paul, who are the founders of the agency, were over in Australia. They were talking at Semi-Permanent, and we just started chatting about did we think that Australia could have a space for a business like Design Studio, and I did, and I still really do, because we're independent. We're still kind of founder owned. We are international. We've got a studio in London and one in New York as well. And we work with, a sort of top tier of clients across technology, culture, lifestyle, sport, like kind of everything. And I felt that wasn't necessarily that was a space that we could start to occupy here. So how did it start? It started with me sat on my own in a WeWork with a laptop, which I mean, it was mad. At that point I was kind of hunting for talent, looking for clients, sort of weaving in and out of support for the North American and European business. And steadily over time we've grown. We're now a team of about 15, 16. We've got our lovely studio in Surrey Hills, and we're working kind of all across the region. Sort of about 80 or 90% of our work is actually outside of Australia and New Zealand. So up into Asia Pacific, into China, into Hong Kong, South Korea. And that kind of diversity and difference, I think, is really exciting. Personally, I find that kind of renewed challenge of, the way in which you work with an organization in South Korea versus Vietnam versus China is radically different. Their challenges are different. Their ambitions are different. I think the proposition which you mentioned there, we build brands that the world loves, and brands that last is something we do believe in. So much,
it's a big sort of statement.
It's a big statement. It is a big claim, but I think
no pressure at all.
Yeah, it'd be bad if it was we build brands the world hates. But I think the thing that sits within it, which is kind of the rhyme and reason we've always got this slide in a lot of our decks, is so much of our work sits in the eye lines and in frankly in the hands of millions of people, billions of people. We've just completed a piece of work here in Sydney, working for a Chinese tech co, which the app will be used by about 900 million people every day. And so when we talk about building brands the world loves, it's really about understanding how to build brands that sit at the intersection of, really personal human requirement and technological opportunity and cultural pressure. And I think those kind of tensions and frictions is where really interesting things start to happen. So yeah, thankfully, I'm not sat on my own in a WeWork anymore. We are a thriving, healthy team. And that point in that conversation around kind of engaging in, whether it's universities or young graduates, that really goes to sustain and build that team and kind of sustain and build that culture as well.
I've heard you have personal favorites of people that are well-rounded with skills.
Yeah.
Like something that you particularly like because they have a sort of potentially like a T-shaped people that have a sort of understanding of a few other things and have done a lot of things themselves.
Yeah, I think, the kind of business that we work in, branding, digital strategy, requires a lot of flexibility. And it means that you need to be able to work through a strategic proposition one day, you know, head up and lead or participate in a workshop the next day. It might mean art directing illustrators or photographers, or, you know, kind of more traditional kind of brand and design work, or even, you know, thinking linguistically or in motion. And so that flexibility is really healthy. And I think something, when I was working in the London business, we had Nokia as a client, and they provided huge amounts of work for us. And so we were directing shoots and 3D films and kind of big retail experiences and custom typefaces, and essentially we were kind of running the whole brand. And what it meant was that I could spend time. I got really into learning 3D motion. I spent time really getting into photo shoots, and so I went directed all these photo shoots in a row, and I just spent time learning how. Like, I would just talk to the Digitech, and I would talk to the lighting assistant. I'd be like, "What are you doing? Why are you lighting like this? What if we try that? What if we try this?" And applying that thinking to motion and to writing and to all these different disciplines, so that you know enough to have an opinion, and you know enough to speak to a specialist and work with a specialist without just coming off as ignorant. Yep. You know, and in that, I think there's a sentiment of respect that I think is really important. Is that, you know, if you bring in a photographer and you've done the due diligence to, you know, just know a little bit about their world, so that you can speak on a more even plane, I think it shows a certain level of respect for their craft.
Yeah, definitely understanding the backgrounds and of what people are doing, and being able to sort of have a conversation and not just demand things that
that's it. You don't want to be the person who's just demanding things, because you won't get what you want, and you won't get anything good.
Yeah, and not in the time especially that you
no.
What excites you about Pause Awards this year?
I think so. I've kept an eye on Pause Awards for the past few years, and I am really excited about it because it feels very different, and it feels very different to everything else that's out there. Whether they're kind of more, you know, category traditional or kind of historied awards. I think there's something really interesting about recognizing businesses that are really pushing themselves, individuals who are really pushing their skill, their business, their category to change the way that we think about what's possible at that kind of really interesting intersection of, you know, leadership, technology, creativity. And I think for me, it's, you know, it's a little bit of a step outside my comfort zone. It's something I'm very comfortable with, but in terms of kind of awards and award schemes, I find that difference really exciting.
Thanks for noticing that, because I really wanted this to be a different thing. I really didn't want to go traditional route. Here is 3,000 different categories in different sort of industries and subcategories and 50 other things. But also our awards more for business achievements and milestones, and yeah, they don't really require subcategories, and I wanted to have funny names of them again, and just the whole approach was very different to any other awards categories, essentially pushing also the boundaries of what awards used to be and what we wanted to do, which could be, as you know, with anything that's new, it could be a challenge bringing it out to market because it's new and people don't understand, whereas they understand what the traditional awards are, but we didn't want to be in that space. So we kind of like trying to innovate a little bit to bring something new. Not many award competitions award for what we do. They might have maybe 1 or 2 categories, but not completely just about what we do. So that was another sort of factor, and just focusing a little bit more on startups and corporates kind of across creative tech and business. So there's quite a few things that are very different about these awards that people might not know. But now, since we're talking about it, it's a good opportunity to actually say it. So thanks for noticing that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, you know, massive congrats to you and the team for pushing this and keeping it going. I think it's really important to diversify the way we think about recognizing business achievement, creative achievement, individual achievement. I think actually one of our clients from last year or the year before, Go On, will a former winner of the Out the Garage award, and they've just turned unicorn over the past few weeks. So I think you've certainly got a finger on the pulse, and you're kind of looking at the right people and recognizing them, which is awesome.
Well, it's important. I mean, running a business is scary and it's a big thing, and we're just not used to recognizing some milestones within this journey that we are on, and this is what awards do, so that you can go and feel better about yourself, that you actually done something that it's not just about sort of exiting. It's not just about sort of IPOing. It's just not about like a massive cap raise and things like that. But there's other things in between that you could potentially sort of celebrate and just acknowledge that that's a part of the journey that's that should be sort of remembered.
Yeah, and I think, interestingly, hearing you talk about it, I think it also, for me, and when I think about awards, I think it's really so one of the pieces that I mentor as part of is the D&AD New Blood, which is the sort of Young Talent Award. Yeah, like incredible work, and I think especially at that kind of point in someone's career and someone's journey, that kind of nod of recognition, or that note of, hey, we see you, we see what you're doing, you're incredible, keep going, can just make all the difference. Opens all the doors. Like, recognizing young talent is really important and really powerful.
You mentioned before, and I need to go track back, and friction and tension, that's something that inspires you. Where do you find it?
Man, well, I love playing devil's advocate, so I generally find it everywhere that I can. And I think my wife would probably have a lot to say about this. Look, I think if you think about, the most interesting dishes you've ever eaten, or the best track you've ever heard, or the most powerful piece of artwork you've ever seen, it's never been what you expected. It's always had a point of tension. And I think that when I say friction, I mean, it's that rub, it's that difference, because when you bring two things together which are potentially unexpected or deemed illogical, that you can actually step off into something interesting. There is, and I think you're starting to see it break down. And I think about kind of our own work, there's these really dogmatic schools of thought where a B2B brand has to be corporate and stuffy and dry because it's a business brand. And frankly, that's bullshit. You are still talking to people, and you're still trying to inspire people to action and emote with them. And why do we have to do everything the way that it has been done before? So I think for me, that kind of friction, that tension is really exciting, because
it's a challenge.
It's 100%. It puts a challenge down to you, and it gets you to focus on the two different things. If you think about the classic American thing, which is peanut butter and jelly or jam sandwiches. Like, if someone was to tell you that they were going to put peanut butter and strawberry jam in a sandwich, you would think they're insane. It tastes incredible, and it's the difference that makes it taste incredible. It's the salty and the sweet, it's the sour and the hot. Like, it's those things that we love. So yeah, I always challenge people and try and push our team to think in ways that adds delight or friction or curiosity, because respectfully, if you just do everything that's been done before because it's the category code or it's the way that kind of brand should look, feel, behave, sound, speak, you're not going to stand out.
Yeah, there's no
It's like,
excitement. There's
no,
no.
there's no difference. There's no risk, and there's no risk, and there's no reward.
Yeah.
Without risk, you don't get failure, and without failure, you don't get reward. If everything's
And you don't learn.
if everything's okay, then nothing's bad, which means nothing's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. I think we could almost even finish on that, but
Yep.
just maybe one last question. Any advice you could give to people that would want to apply this year for the awards?
Oh,
what are you going to be looking at?
What am I going to be looking at? I'm going to be looking for bravery. I find, brave, interesting ideas that might have been hiding in plain sight. Like to me as a Luddite, it might have been hiding in plain sight, but to you, it might be the business that needs to exist. So I think that bravery and confidence to step out and, declare that this is an idea, a business, a product that has to exist. I find that really exciting because I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn why that is necessary. That's what I'm really excited about.
There's a space in the market for it.
Yeah.
And they're championing that. That's I'm also excited about that too. Thank you so much for your time. Look forward to working with you on this year's awards, and speak soon.
Me too, George. Thank you so much.
Thanks.